Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and today's video is going to be about... Aw, damn it, I forgot to change the poster. Rock on, Luffy. Okay, so today's video is going to be all about eyes, pupils, irises, the sort of eye showcase of the One Piece world. Alright, so I got this image sent to me over Discord. I have no idea who came up with this. I don't know if it was the person that sent it to me made this. I don't know if he got it from another source. I don't know where this came from, but it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to be discussing the exact theory that's being posed in this picture. This picture is posing the idea that everybody in the One Piece world that has that sort of like double-lined, like concentric circle, ripple, Rinnegan eye, whatever you want to call it, has the ability to share visions with other people. I don't think that's the case. I think that was something just indicative of Zunisha and Momonosuke, because they were stated to have a prior connection. Zunisha has some sort of connection with the Kozuki clan, and Momonosuke is just the most recent member of that clan. As for the theory down on the left side that Luffy could see an image projected by Mihawk, that was probably just an early rendition of observation hockey. I don't think there's anything more to really look into it there. Yeah, take that as a hint for observation, if anything. I don't think it's anything beyond that. But this is just an example of everybody kind of just freaking out over Im-sama or Imu-sama. I don't like saying Imu-sama. It's weird. I'm calling him Im-sama from now on, because I like that. I'm just going to go with that, alright? So, the eyes from Im-sama at the end of the last chapter, okay? That was like the one thing we really have to go on. I mean, it's not the only thing. We also know that they're a rather tall and lanky fellow, and they got the crown, and obviously they're the king of the world, but in terms of like facial or body characteristics, we don't really have much beyond that, except for their eyes. And so we saw the eyes at the end of the last chapter, and I think a lot of people are going, like, really digging for gold here, and they're just coming up dry, you know? I think it's because it's, like, the one thing we have to go off of now. Everybody's putting on their tinfoil hats. I'm like, alright, well, they have to... Oda went out of his way to show us his eye, therefore the eye has to be extremely significant in some way, shape, or form. See, I don't view it like that, and even when I read the chapter, I didn't view it like that. And maybe some other people have made videos about this. I'm almost certain probably somebody did. I usually check before I do a video to see how many other people are talking about it, but because this is a brand new thing that just happened, probably somebody else made a video about the eyes in particular, but I just want to give you, like, my 2 cents on this. It's basically like, I've seen this before in One Piece a lot. That's why I wasn't that surprised by it. If it was, like, only Mihawk and only Im-sama that had this kind of eye, then... okay, I could see where you might be going here. Like, okay, there definitely is some kind of relation. But that's not the case. I went back, and I essentially went through every single chapter that I had on my computer, because whenever I do a chapter review, I have to take the snapshots of the chapter, and I save all of those. So, obviously, I couldn't go back through all of One Piece and look at every single character's eyes, but I just went back through, like, the middle of the Totland arc up until right now, and I paid extra attention to the eyes of the characters, okay? So I wanted to see how Oda did it, and I did notice a few things that he does, you know, tend to do when drawing a character's eyes. So let's take a look at Luffy here. Most of the time when you see Luffy just walking around or just, you know, hanging out or talking, you know, not really in the middle of a fight, not really in the middle of a pitched combat or anything, his eyes are usually just drawn as simple dots. Alright, now, whenever Luffy gets serious and he starts fighting an opponent, he does tend to add that extra ring around his eyes. I'm assuming that's because Oda wants to kind of show us that, you know, Luffy is serious right now. Oda has come out and said that, yeah, there's various little subtle things that he changes about the characters in terms of, you know, the way they talk and the way they have, you know, their little speech patterns and everything. In fact, here's something that you probably didn't even consider, but it was addressed in an SBS a while ago. Luffy almost never, not saying he never does, but he almost never has inner dialogue. And that's intentional. Oda came out and said he's the kind of guy that responds more with his... like, if he's thinking something, he's just gonna say it. It's just gonna be blurted out, kind of like what I do. Or he, you know, thoughts expressed into action rather than just sitting around thinking like, Katakuri has the Mochi Mochi no Mi. It's an ability that allows him to match every single one of my powers. I should maybe use Gear 4 of Snake Man. Maybe that would help. No, Luffy's the kind of guy that's just like, okay, Snake Man! And speaking of Snake Man, right before Luffy went Snake Man, you see this image of him, and his eyes are just dots, and they look kind of weak, but then the second he goes into Snake Man, boom! Adds an extra line there to give it a little bit more detail. So, that's just an example from Luffy, and you could see that from other characters too. That's not particular to Luffy. I noticed that a lot with Sanji too, where whenever Sanji's not the main focus, or it's not a big panel focusing on Sanji, whenever he's just, standing around talking, his eyes are just dots. But whenever it's a serious moment, and maybe Oda draws them a little bit more in detail, he adds that extra line. So, that's just something I noticed just with every character. Now, the one exception to this I've noticed, though, across the board is the ladies' eyes. Oda tends to focus a little bit more attention to detail on the ladies of One Piece, and not just on the boobs, although, let me tell you, doing research for this video and staring at two concentric circles with a dot in the middle for long, I'm already thinking about boobs enough. I don't need to keep it... I'll be back in 5 minutes. Now, though, we're talking about this specific kind of eye, though. This like, double concentric circle, very obvious, kind of thick lines with a dot in the middle, basically the same exact way that Mihawk's eyes are drawn, okay? Well, that probably doesn't happen very often in the One Piece world, right? Except for Mihawk, obviously. Zunisha had it after he began speaking to Momonosuke, and he showed the image of Jack attacking him, which I once again believe that was just a connection that Momonosuke and Zunisha had. Who else had those eyes, though? Well, Big Mom did. That's right. When she was in the middle of her hunger pang at the beginning of the end of Totland, I guess I should say, when she was entering that wedding cake phase, first her eyes were like a spiral pattern, like out of like madness or confusion. Other characters also exhibited that, like Sparrow. But upon the time she arrived on the Thousand Sunny and began ripping that to shreds, her eyes had a bunch of concentric circles on it, which I made the Rinnegan joke when I did the review. I'm sure a lot of other people did as well. And I don't know if the reason why everyone is going obsessive over the eye thing is like, do you want eye powers to exist in One Piece? Like, I really don't think it needs that. Like, I mean, I'm a fan of like the visual prowess thing in Naruto. I thought that was a cool concept. It was always really neat whenever Sasuke revealed that he had a Rinnegan. I mean, yeah, that was all right. That was cool, but I just don't think it's needed. I don't think we need to have eye powers in One Piece all of a sudden. Yeah, you got the like the concentric circle pattern with Big Mom. Perona exhibited this. Perona, being a lady, had really large eyes, a little bit weirder than usual though. That kind of resembles Rock Lee from Naruto, so there's another reference there. But when she was in her fight with Usopp, and Usopp was about to lay the smackdown on her with the 10-ton hammer, and, was covering her in the cockroaches and everything, her eyes began to do the same thing, the same kind of ring thing. Hakuba, Cavendish's altered ego, exhibited this. Karibo exhibited this. So, it's something that is not just indicative of Mihawk and Im-sama. Alright, if that was like, if Mihawk was the only character in One Piece that had these kind of eyes, then sure, I would give it to you. Now, you might say this, you might say, well, that's all well and good, Tekking, but perhaps those characters, when they had, their eyes aren't always like that. Mihawk's eyes are always like that. Every time we see Mihawk, his eyes are always with that pattern. Well, every time we see Karibo's eyes, they're also of that pattern too, but okay, fine, I'll give it to you. This is the one and only time we've seen, not the eyes, not just the eyes, but any facial feature from Im-sama at all. Like when he was in the vault, he was breathing. Okay, so he has a mouth. That's good to know. But when it comes to their like facial features, the only thing we've really seen there are Im-sama's eyes. So maybe Im-sama's eyes aren't always like that. They're not always the concentric circles. Because this is something that Oda just very clearly likes to do whenever he's exhibiting some sort of, like, intensity or some particular emotion from a character. The reason Big Mom's eyes started going all Rinnegan crazy was because she was in the middle of her hunger pang, and she really wanted that damn cake. I don't know if you guys got that enough, because she rarely said it. When she was rampaging around Totland, we didn't really understand what she wanted, but a few times after going back and rereading it, I figured it out that, yeah, she did in fact want some wedding cake, but in order to show that level of insanity and craving and just the driving hunger that was making her crazy mad, that's what Oda did. Whenever Perona was fighting Usopp, and, you know, she was at the moment where she was about to pass out, and she was so scared, he drew the eyes like that. It wasn't just an anime thing either. I went back and checked the manga, and it's the same as in the manga there. Karibo's eyes were always the same. Hakuba is the alter ego of Cavendish, and is this crazy, you know, bloodthirsty swordsman that just, like, wicked fast and just shreds everybody down, and that's like his one defining trait, right? So obviously he's going to exhibit that kind of intensity through his eyes. All right. The reason that Mihawk might be drawn like that all the time is he always exhibits that kind of intensity because he is the apex. He is the king of all swordsmen in the world. Some people have actually even come out and said, well, Mihawk, he's Im-sama. Just cut out the middleman. Mihawk has those eyes all the time. Im-sama had those same eyes the one time we saw him. Cut and dry, Mihawk's the king. I mean, look. It doesn't make any sense, but I'd be okay with Mihawk being the king of the One Piece world. I mean, it's not the case. Mihawk, you know, he travels the ocean kind of doing whatever he wants. He lives on Muggy Island. He's at Muggy Island right now with Perona. You think he's gonna give up that gig hanging out on a deserted island with a bunch of war-torn castles and monkeys and a sexy, big-busted, pink-haired ghost girl to go just be king of the world? That seems kind of a downgrade, if you ask me. But no, the king of the world is not Mihawk, but I mean, it would be cool to see him up there, but alright, fine, whatever. Mihawk is the best swordsman, and his epithet is literally Hawkeye. So, you know, and just to make diggly dong sure, I even went back to the introduction of Mihawk at the beginning of the series, because I just wanted to see, like, okay, the eye thing, you know, the thing that Oda's doing. Sometimes he draws them with just a dot, and then when they get into fights, he draws them with the extra line there to kind of add in a pupil. Was that something he started doing at the very beginning, or was that something that was added in later? I went back to the Baratie arc, when Mihawk was first introduced, chapter 50, by the way. Well, at the end of chapter 49, but really it's chapter 50 when he makes his, like, proper introduction, in case you're curious. Way back in the 90s, it's a little bit less apparent back then. He doesn't do it as much as he did now, because going back and rewatching the fight between Luffy and Katakuri, or rereading the fight between Luffy and Katakuri, the thing with Luffy's eyes, it's very much constant, where his eyes, as long as he's in fighting mode, have those kind of eyes. Going back to the Baratie arc, Oda tends to do a little bit more of just the dot thing. Even when Zoro first saw Mihawk, a moment where I was sure that the eyes were going to change a little bit, they were still just the dots. It wasn't until right before Zoro was about to clash with Mihawk that his eyes did the ring thing with the pupil, because Oda, I guess, was drawing him in more detail there and wanted to really express that through the eyes. So this was something that was, yes, even in existence way back at the beginning of One Piece. So, and the creation of Hawkeye Mihawk, you're going to give him Hawkeye as a distinctive characteristic, right? But Karibo has the exact same eyes. They're just colored green instead of yellow, which, by the way, I think Mihawk's original color of his eyes were supposed to be red in the manga, and that was just the yellow thing was something that was added into the anime. What are you going to do? Going along with that vein, Kuma's jacket was originally supposed to be orange, which I actually kind of like more than the brown, but maybe I'm just the weird one. So, yeah. I don't think it's a connection to Mihawk. I don't think it's some mystical, magical power. I really think at that moment, Oda is like, okay, I am now going to be portraying a king, an objective ruler of the entire world that even the Gorosei bow down to. I don't want to show off his face yet, I just want to show his presence. So what can I do? Okay, I will show his eyes. Well, would Oda just draw a singular pupil to really get that point across? This was the end of the chapter. He had to leave on something impactful and kind of, like, intense, right? So if you're gonna just draw the character's eyes looking down on the Gorosei like that, you're not just gonna draw them like this, you're gonna draw them like this, because this is Oda's MO. This is what he's done whenever he wants to show some emotion in a character's gaze, and that's what he did here. Now, with that all being said, if this character, every time we see him from now on, is drawn with these kind of eyes, I still don't think that's indicative of having some magical Naruto visual prowess ability. But it would be an interesting club he would be part in. A club that is currently only owned by Mihawk and Karibo, if I'm under the impression. There might be another character somewhere in the One Piece world. It's a big world. I couldn't check everything. This was only like a few hours of research on my end that culminated in me drawing this. But yeah, basically, there's not very many characters that have that, but we have to wait and see. Like, to add on to that, though, I do think that it's possible that Imusama could have some sort of clairvoyance or some kind of prophetic ability to see into the future, and that's the reason why he is the king of the world. But I don't think it has anything to do with his eyes in particular. It's just maybe a special power that he has. You know, there. So I think just back up on the eye thing. I don't think it's going to be all that relevant. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking101 signing out. Later. People ask me if this is annoying to do it. Like, I get messages that are like, man, Tekking, that must be such a pain in the ass to swap posters. Takes like, I don't know, how long did that take? Like less than a minute? These are meant to be on 2 hooks, and to save time, I just add 1, you know? So, that saves some time there. But, you know, the whole process of making a video, I mean, I can't just be lying in my bed. Like, just to give you an idea, today, I was lying in my bed about 20 minutes ago, and then I'm like, alright, well, time to get up, time to do this video. My room was a mess, my bed was a mess, I had pillows all over the place, so I had to clean my room first. Even the stuff that wasn't going to be in the shot. I cleaned my room up. I made my bed. I always make sure my bed is really nice and neat. And, you know, then I worry about things. I have to get my microphone out. I have to open up my software. I have to move everything around on my desk. I have to make sure there's nothing super distracting back here. And then I do the wall scroll.